jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. Jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show.
Join us as we cover many an insane movie and numerous cult TV phenomenons. Are you ready to get jacked up? Are you with us? Then listen on.
Listener discretion is advised. It's a jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. Jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. Jacked up review show.
Welcome back, everyone, ladies and gents. We got John, and we are going to be exploring the complicated history of the music on the 2000s.
Sure
How are
are.
you, sir?
I'm good.
It was Atomic Wasteland, and I say that in both a meaningful way and a sarcastic way. It wasn't easy. So, what is your first pick for music that sums up the best of what the 2000s had to offer?
Well, I figured I start off with the first of two supergroups I'll mention that I actually don't mind. And
When everyone was a punching bag and the internet was now a thing.
yeah, well, the first one I mentioned was Audio Slave with Like a Stone.
Oh,
one.
yeah.
I've always liked. I know people like to make fun of the name, which I don't mind actually. I never had a problem with that name. Just
I mean-
saying.
Why?
I mean, I've heard worse people. Come on.
I mean, it was Soundgarden on a different side project, so.
Exactly. And it's a great showcase of Chris Cornell's voice. I mean, what else can you
I
expect?
mean, he consistently worked. He never stopped churning out at least 3 hits each decade.
Exactly.
He had a great. I mean, everyone was gonna listen to the whole album, even the B side. He rocked, and
Oh yeah.
yeah, Like a Stone, I think is just a good kind of just fighting back kind of song.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the vibe in that is just totally like, I am done with everybody. I am done with sick of their shit. I can rock hard. I'm like a stone.
And that's why it works so well.
Yeah, you need a fun kind of just defensive song. I'm on the offense. Defense. I'm gonna go ahead with My Hero by Foo Fighters. I know it's been played to death, but it gets me into a total kind of competitive mode in some capacity. It also makes me drive my car way too fast.
Well, it's weird because I was gonna mention Foo Fighters later on with Times Like These. That's actually my favorite of theirs.
That's a great one, too. Man, so many hits. Where do you begin?
I know it's too many to name. I'll say that.
Too many. I think Dave Grohl's voice really complimented the 2000s by then, because by that point, he and the band were just getting even more amusing with their outrageous music videos.
That's true.
And at that point, I mean, the angst was still fading perfectly well into the 2000s from the 90s. So it's like, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
and they're kind of able to kind of drift and collaborate with a bunch of other artists. So it made sense why he was doing other side projects like those Crooked Vultures, and he knew how to speak to people. So it wasn't like a weird interview Or like the whole, Marilyn Manson's the world. Hey, they're actually not dumb people. It's like, well, anyone else could have told you that.
Yeah.
Oh, what's another one?
Okay, well, the other super group I mentioned, Velvet Revolver, the Slither.
Huh.
I've always quite liked that, the combination of both Guns N' Roses and Stone Temple Pilots together, which I
Okay.
think worked well, at least for the first album, not so much the second album too much.
Yeah.
And that's when it really, like, shit really hit the fan with Scott Weiland, his drug use and all, which
Had to be some conflict going on.
somehow, but no, I just thought it was, a nice blend of those two, and I actually thought his voice complemented well with Slash and all.
They really are from a
Yeah.
lot of the same circles. It was just, different personas. So that's why it took a while, and then it faded away pretty quick.
Yeah, they never really came back because, then Slash would do his solo stuff, which we'll talk about next one.
Oh, sure. Good one. I'm going to go with, of course, Bodies by Drowning Pool.
I have a feeling.
That's another song where it's just like, it's just that voice just sounded so isolating, and it's actually technically a depressing song, but it's just a fun. It's really
That's true.
what it is it's just been embraced as a fighting song. And I am not in any way, shape, or form a competitive kind of guy who wants to just go out and just rock and be rock'em sock'em robots, but I definitely just think it's a fun kind of just to let everyone know, hey, here we are. Get your game face on.
Yeah, that's all I really need to be. It's not trying to be anything else.
And yeah, there's some serious percussion in that one. Drums and bass. I don't know how he strained his voice.
I'm surprised he didn't, to be honest.
Had to have been hell. But...
Oh, I know. Well, I also got Alter Bridge Rise today. So of course I'll mention them at this point, because this is
All right.
when they really started to, embrace their songwriting and abilities and actually sound like a cohesive band rather than just a blatant rip off of Creed just with different singer. First album.
Yeah. Everyone had to
Mm.
sound like 5 other songs that were on the radio at this point.
Don't get me wrong, I
Realize
don't mind the first album, just this really showcased what they really were at that time and what they've become since then.
Totally.
And I just wish that they were more popular here than, but people don't want to listen to that for some reason. That's the sad part.
They're the kind of band that is featured on a movie soundtrack, and 1/4 of the people listening light up because they know the band, and everyone else is like, "What? Are they like from Germany or something?"
Which they're not, folks. I'll tell you that right now. They'll be disappointed.
I am disappointed.
But no, that's one band that I do find to be a bit underrated whenever people talk about bands from the 2000s or even later
Do
on.
anything recent?
Oh yeah, they have. They've done 4 albums this past decade, and in fact, I actually got to see them before, like 2 months before COVID hit,
Let
and
me spell their name. How do I spell it?
Alter Bridge.
Oh, Alter Bridge. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
Alter
shit.
Bridge.
Okay,
Yeah.
we did talk about this. Yeah, Alter Bridge. I mean, I think I mean, you can find them easy on even some of the music streaming sites like,
Oh yeah.
Evo and Pandora. So they're out there, but yeah, I think everyone's, I guess because a lot of the underground bands seem to be a little more mainstream than it was any other era, I guess.
I guess
I know.
so at that point. But
Yeah. Is it that independent? I mean, would you call them more independent, or are they kind of not too far from some of the other MySpace era?
I could say they're kind of independent, although they're still fairly known, mostly because of, Miles Kennedy's work with Slash over the years. That's why. I mean, that's how I got introduced to them, was his work with Slash. So
Wow.
you just never know.
No, you really don't. Oh, good one. Okay. Alter Bridge. Okay, I'm gonna go with The Remedy by Jason Mraz. I've always admired him as a person, and this song just is a good kind of relaxing kind of, but it takes you really on an adventure when you just listen to how poetic he can be at times. He's kind of a one-hit wonder, but this song, I mean, some people will recognize it, other people will be like, never heard it. Or I heard it at a shopping mall, but I didn't know who it was.
That's probably me, because I don't recognize the name, but I'm sure I probably did at some point.
Yeah, I got introduced to a lot of stuff, whether it was on iTunes or versus the radio, and he kind of had an interesting kind of background, not too dissimilar from, say, someone like Ben Folds, who, don't get me wrong, I got some of his songs on here too. It was like, he's kind of a funny guy, and don't watch the music video. Oh, that video is terrible.
I'm not be surprised, honestly.
They didn't even try.
Oh God.
Doesn't even have anything to do with the song, like most of these videos. But yeah, I think he's a pretty cool guy. He's really good at playing the guitar. I think he can even play the banjo, if I'm not mistaken. But I'd have to fact check that. But I thought he was very charismatic, and I think altogether he was showing that a lot of people could blend a lot of kind of light rock in with some pop music, and then kind of be kind of part of the alternative music scene. It's like, hey, I don't have to be lumped into just one category.
That's
can
true.
still be a party music vibe or a very entertaining live concert. He's definitely the kind of guy who would definitely be interacting with people, seeing if they're enjoying the show, kind. So it's like, but that also kind of already came across. Just listen to the music in general. It's like, are you entertained? All right, let's do another one. Yeah, go ahead.
Well,
Got another one.
well, I think I do like a very obscure band, which admittedly I didn't know about them until Spotify recommended them to me, of all things. And I believe they're a Swedish band that actually feel like they were inspired by the 80s, because when you listen to them, they sound like they came straight from the 80s. I'm not even kidding. And I actually call it work of arts.
Work
of
art.
Yeah. And the one song I listen to the most, because this sounds like this should have been on a movie soundtrack, it's called Why Do I? And
Why do I?
it's very interesting to hear someone that was clearly inspired by that decade and decided to just continue it on, which I have no problem with if you do it well. That's all I say.
Right.
And it seemed like they did. At least I've only heard like the one album from them as of right now, but I was
You're
particularly
waiting
impressed
on
with
their
that song.
continuation.
Oh yeah, but they've had other albums. I just haven't listened to them, to be fair. And I was just particularly impressed with the singer's voice and I don't know, it definitely took you back once you listened to it. It's
That's
like,
cool.
wow, are they sure they're not from the 80s? No, they're not.
Someone studied.
It must have been, because wow. I
Yeah,
thought it was
nothing
like an
else?
80s band when I was recommended, and I'm like, wait, that's from 2008? Seriously? Because the way it's produced, it sounds like it's from the 80s, but I don't know. It's odd.
You can never be too sure.
I know.
Very good. Very good. Well, I got a pretty predictable one. Down with the Sickening Spider Sturt. They started off 97. They were patrolling areas. I don't know if they were in Georgia, but they were definitely patrolling around the Dallas music scene. And I think I just always liked how they didn't even want to classify themselves in what kind of a metal band they were. They kind of just were easily hard rock as well. It helped that songs like these would get played in some movie soundtracks, and I think more or less they were really good at just making it all just kind of be pretty well configured. It's like,
Yeah. I mean,
you're getting a
it was something
blizzard's worth
interesting.
of music.
Particularly the opening, which I always remember. I know everybody likes to make fun of that opening quite a bit.
Yeah. They don't shy away from getting graphic, but they weren't also the kind of graphic where it's like, it's too much, I don't want to hear it. You know, they weren't
True.
a Rob Zombie type fan. They weren't even.
Thank God. That's what I say.
Yeah. Oh man. They were also pretty good at just kind of, I guess, they could be a little sarcastic, I guess, in some of their songs, and so that kind of helps. It's like, it's a serious song and it's a great one to jam to, but they're also just, I don't know, I just really got a lot of their passion from it. It made sense when I saw them doing that cover of Paul Simon, and it's like, okay, well,
Which I was very impressed by when I heard that.
he can be very subdued with his voice if he wants to be. He doesn't have to just blurt it out.
Which is good, because sometimes people can just, either overdo it or try to overpower the song for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't need that. But he was at least respectful to the cover, that's what I'll say. Even as somebody who wasn't big on Simon and Garfunkel, but still.
Yeah, I knew some who knew him only for doing the cover of Phil Collins, Genesis, Land of Confusion. I was like, seriously?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I
Okay,
guess.
people.
Yeah.
That's just kind of sad, if you ask me.
But I was just like, okay. I mean, I don't really think too highly of covers. I think it's inspired, but I prefer a lot of their original stuff. Stupefy.
It depends upon, how they arrange it. That's what I always say. If it's just the exact same thing, and then it's like, why would you even bother? I don't get it. Well, I guess since I previously mentioned this one, I figured I'd go Bug Cherry with Our Line.
Oh yeah.
And which is the obscure song from that album, because we all know the most famous one, Crazy Bitch.
Oh well, I was thinking of Everything.
Oh well, yeah, that one too. But Our Line's one that when you hear it, I always go back because it sounds like something you would hear in a Bond movie, particularly the opening credits.
Yeah, I did have to check at one point. I was like, did David Arnold do the instrumental?
I know, that's what I thought too when I heard it.
And it's very brief at first. It's like, whoa, hey, someone going on some crazy time loop or whatever.
I have no problem with that, because it's a fun song. They were a fun band. Now they've kind of gone a little too far. some stuff. They trying to
Oh,
experiment too much, you know.
I would imagine. I kind of just mainly heard a lot of their best hits, but I mean, they could honestly, at this point, commit the Chinese democracy worthy soundtrack of their career, and they would still, everyone would want to still check them out.
Oh, as people do. Like I remember,
When
I saw,
you've had that many colorful lyrics.
well, true, but I remember seeing an interview with the singer, and he mentioned that whenever they did Crazy Bitch, they would, splice that in with the Stroke with Billy Squire somehow,
Oh, wow.
and that's how they would end the concert. I'm like, well, that'd be interesting to hear. I don't know how that
Definitely.
works, but
Yeah, two different walks of life.
I know.
Um,
It's like, huh.
I'm sure he's a nice guy, but yeah, in a lot of his songs, it's like, especially those early albums, they perfectly illustrate the whole I don't give a fuck. I'm
Nope.
honest without trying to be a douche, and yet at the same time, I don't care. I don't care anymore.
I mean, my dad, I'll say this right now, my dad loves the song Lit Up, which they had in the 90s. And he always quotes the one line, which we all know is, I love the cocaine, which is hilarious.
It really is.
And but he's like, it's so catchy, that's why I like it. I'm like, okay. I mean, I like that song too, but wow. Okay.
They are passionate, foul-mouthed people.
They are. And now it's just him because I know the guitarist left the band a few years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because him and the singer, because the singer wanted to keep touring and the guitarist wanted to relax and stay home at least for a few months. The singer didn't want to bother with that, so they just decided, you know what, we're gonna part ways. And I think since then, that's how they've gone downhill because you can hear it.
It's
How
just not the same.
It's not the same, and they try to add electronics
Hmm.
to that music, and you're like, oh God, no. I'm sorry, guys, but you lose me right there. We try to do that. It's just obnoxious.
Oh dear.
So, but nope, that's one I always like to mention because we've all heard "Crazy Bitch" a bunch of times. Hell, that's how that's
Played.
and that was them ripping into Paris Hilton. That's why, which is
That makes sense. It's
even
just
more
like you see
hilarious.
all these starlets who are just like, yeah, I'd fuck them, but then I'm gonna hate myself in the morning. So you're just a easy slut lay,
Exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, I think a lot of people have heard that, and it definitely got remixed quite a lot on rock stations when they're at night, and
Oh
on
yeah.
Saturdays they try and blend it with other
Try to
rap
censor
and rock
it,
music.
and also
I like the silence me. Yeah. It's like we all knew what happened. It shouldn't even be getting played on the radio technically.
that was even supposed to be the first single. I read that because they apparently it's supposed to be something else, but somehow it blew up because of MySpace. Go figure there.
Oh,
And
I can see that. I can see them sharing that. I mean, people had my brother had it as his ringtone, I'm sure. So. So I guess what I'm getting with the 2000s is basically this is the era where everyone is getting either just really heavy or, and by heavy I mean just more just like with their tunes or
yeah,
just really, really, they're not trolling per se, but they're just really being in everyone's face and just doing anything they can to catch everyone's attention.
yeah, that's really the epitome of that decade was for music. And some of it worked and some of it didn't.
Totally.
Let's see.
Okay, well, I got Hell Above the Water by Curb. And anyone who's like, I've never heard of Curb. Curb was a fun, Tony Holiday was like from the British rock scene, did this electro rock scene here with this group. And you've heard this song, and chances are you've heard it everywhere without even realizing you heard it. It was played everywhere, from video games to movie trailers, and
I'm sure.
I drove my brother crazy playing the hell out of this song. I've always liked a lot of their vocals, and no. If you look it up now on YouTube, you'll totally recognize it.
So I was trying to see. What was the name of it? Just to make sure.
Hell Above the Water by Curb. And they're all worth watching. I mean, I think Stilling Charity, I think, is another song they did. And then I was into all kinds of electronic music, like by Annie Hunter. And of course, an ad has to play before every single song.
Of course. I hate that crap.
This is where I was just totally in tune with it. I was already into rock music and electronic music, and so to blend those two together and just... I really dug her voice too. It kind of reminded me of Debbie Harry from Blondie.
That does sound familiar. I'm trying to see.
She's done so many movie soundtracks under just her solo name. Had a lot of unreleased music that I was able to download from like one site, and I was like, oh, it's like, did she get in an argument with Universal executives or something? Or,
Oh yeah, I have heard that. It's been, it had to take a while. I was like, wait, have I heard that? Oh, okay.
It was even in the trailer to Iron Man. And it was like, what?
Yeah. I was like, I know I've heard that somewhere. That's why.
It was in Motorstorm, which was a video game I got free when my parents first bought the PS free for us. It was like, I got used to it after a while. No.
Yeah, that tends to happen. Just you just remember the next day.
Oh man.
Well, I figured I'd mention this one since, well, this was this band's big song for the 2000s, which was Danny California by Hot Chili Peppers.
Yes, sir, Bob. Yeah.
And that was always one that I've always enjoyed listening to. It's just an easy listening. It's one you can listen to, and it's very easy to listen to, and it's never annoying to listen to. And people like to make fun of his voice, I can tell. So I'm like, I've never had a problem with his voice. I'm sorry.
Love Anthony. Love Anthony.
And it's funny because then after I remember hearing that song was when I got to see the performance at S the Hill. So that was the first time back since the 90s, which we all knew what happened there.
I actually don't.
Oh, well, so they did a song called Stone Cold Bush, which was their first song. And apparently, Anthony, he accidentally knocked the microphone onto the guitarist's face by accident, and the guitarist was so pissed that for Under the Bridge, the second song of the night, he started the song wrong, played the wrong notes, and then during the chorus started singing off key, or screaming off key, I should mention.
Oh boy.
And You could tell Anthony was pissed. You could
Yeah.
tell at the very end, the way he looks at him at the very end of the performance.
Wow.
So everybody liked to talk about that, especially that time. But yet, the album sales went up because of that performance. So that's the funniest part about that. But anyway, yeah, that song is what brought them back to that stage years later, and no incident whatsoever, which is a good thing. And it was just a fun performance overall, with of course Flea with his shirt off, as I expected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what else would you expect? But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know about all the other blunders, and I've seen parts of those. I mean, especially the infamous Rage Against the Machine episode. But yeah.
Oh yeah. Well,
And
that's
any
a whole other
the last
episode to
few.
talk about there.
And I haven't cared for most of the musical performances, but yeah, of the last 10 years. But I mean, I think Anthony also is. Did he replace the guitarist, or was he just like, hey,
I think
don't
like right
fuck
after
around?
that, well, not after that, but I think a few years later he did, and then then he and that guitarist they came back because that same song, Danny California, the guitarist came back for that. So, but there was like no, unless of course they still hate each other. They were just like, you know what, fuck it, let's just work. We don't care. But yeah, that's what happened, and somehow they worked it out all those years later.
It's good to know. Very cool. I will pick. I'm gonna go with "Rockin' the Suburbs" by Ben Folds 5. So
Okay.
that song was just another great, just kind of making fun of just middle class life and. And of course, after a while, it gets pretty foul, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's actually been a long time since I've heard that one. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, you used to be able to find one of those live shows he was playing. It was either on Letterman or Jay Leno or something, and at the part where he's about to get foul mouthed, he deliberately, kind of does what Jack Black does. He cleans it up, and the audience is just waiting for him, so they're guffawing with him, and he's trying to keep a straight face while singing. I think he's really been good at. I mean, he can play a piano. He can, do a lot of different instruments, and he's really good at just kind of somehow, kind of like Cake. They kind of have that dry,
Yeah,
mildly witty voice about him. So it's like you got a lot of talent to be in awe of.
that's very true. It was at least what I like to call it unique, especially not only that time, but also in the '90s when he had his big song there that I know quite a few people knew at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, now some people know him because of him being a judge on one of those reality shows, which
Really?
is kind of sad. Yeah, I'm not kidding. Um,
If you could team up with Jason Mraz, that'd be cool. I know he did that one soundtrack with William Shatner. He's just doing
I
the
didn't know that.
acoustics.
I have to listen to that. Uh, that should be interesting. But well, I figured I'd go. Speaking of the older bands having a song in 2000s, as I mentioned, the '90s was Pearl Jam, but the one that I go with, it's a very strange song for them to have done at that time, but I remember it so well because they played it quite a bit. It's always been one that I've had fun with, called The Fixer, from
Fixer.
2009. Well, you've heard that, trust me, in plenty of commercials. They played that a ton,
Listen to
and
it.
it's I'd
sure
say
I
it's
have.
probably the more poppy song. Well, from the music side, I'd say.
Gonna happen sooner or later.
And but it's one that I've always had fun with. It's not one of the best ones,
Dream.
but if it's one that you want to play in the party, you can do that. That's why I say.
Sometimes it's all you need.
Oh
Come
yeah.
on, play the song.
I know my dad makes fun of it because he's like, Mike, I understand him now.
What's the one where he's literally just at the table singing about cornbread?
Oh, I forgot that name. Crap. I know I've heard it. Was it
Oh
called?
yeah, this is more recent. Yeah, I wish
Yeah,
they played that one more often.
Well, I know over here they did, especially the commercials. It's like, my God. You think it was like a huge hit, but I'm not sure if it was.
I don't think it was, especially with however Universal's doing music nowadays. But kind of like garbage, they just let them do whatever they want, and they just play some of their new stuff, and then they
That's
just go
true.
back to playing the old stuff. Yeah, I think I heard it in a cell phone AT&T commercial. So,
Hmm. I think it was a Target commercial for me,
oh, even better.
which is interesting.
Mm-hmm. So now's the moment we've all been waiting for. Why is "Say It Ain't So" by Weezer so addicting?
I don't know.
You don't know?
That's a good.
I guess
I mean,
they're doing more than just breathing their entire soul to the world. They are literally exposing it and then wrapping it up in a gift wrap present.
and it's weird because it's like I've heard that because of so many films that played that during that
It's
time.
on Rock Band or
It was-
whatever, Guitar Hero, for God's sake. So,
I was like, my God. I think they even, if I remember correctly, I think they even inspired that movie Say It Isn't So, but I don't want to think about that crap. Seriously.
who knows? Who knows? Yeah, I mean, overall, I mean, they could easily be so whiny, and they really don't come off like that. They come off as just, again, losers who are in a garage band who,
Yeah.
obviously they're not, but they have that some kind of background. They kind of just they appeal to more than just geeks. They appeal to just kind of just.
Hmm.
I guess they could be suburban people. I don't know.
I guess so. I guess that's the right way to put it, I would say. Well, then, I'll mention this because this is probably the last song this band ever did together after these brothers just couldn't stop arguing. Was the song "The Shock of the Lightning" by Oasis. That's one that
A shark with a
no,
what?
the Shock of the Lightning. That's what it's called.
A sharp of the lightning.
The Shock of the Lightning.
The sharp of the lightning. No.
Shock, SHOCK. Shock.
The shark. Oh, I thought you said shark. So
No, that's okay. The Shock
Nice.
of the Lightning.
Jesus.
And they
Okay.
played that quite a bit. I remember. I think for like a little bit, then they stopped because no one cared at that point. And I've always thought it was very interesting and unique. They would switch it up with their music each time. And like I said, after this, they broke up because those brothers just hate each other with a passion. And I don't think they'll ever get along. But that's a different story for another day. That's a sad part.
Yeah. Makes you wonder what's going on.
I don't know, but it's like Jesus, guys. It's like the Black Rose, but even worse. That's what I always say each time. But
Tell me.
No, what's your next one?
Oh boy. What am I gonna do? I'm gonna go with Take My Picture by Filter.
Ah,
Always been a fan
interesting
of
choice.
lead singer Richard Patrick, who used to work with Nine Inch Nails, and
Did he
yeah,
die?
here
I don't know if he died or not. I know that.
I don't think he died, but
Oh,
he's actually the brother of Robert Patrick, the
yep.
actor, Terminator 2, and apparently, yeah, this song, I thought it was more just like a gal breaking up or something. It just had a very exotically, very sad vibe to it. It's like, yeah, this is perfect. My kind of sad. This is this is very emotional and yet I wouldn't say poetic, but very artistic, very.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting, especially for that band who usually more industrial rock, is what I like to call
Yeah, they're
them.
totally from that scene, and here, it got a little more not subtle, but kind of just low key in a way. And
Yeah,
it was interesting how it was all about kind of. I had a friend who actually told me, he's like, that's why he's saying old man. He's referring to, him arguing with his dad growing up, cutting him out of his life. So it's like,
that's interesting. I just didn't know that.
but yeah, for whatever reason, I thought it was him on the run with some model who he took a photo of. I was like, no, that's not is at all.
That's a good choice there.
Take my picture, 'cause I won't remember.
But then there's one band that I know one of my brothers, they actually introduced me to this band. Like it was actually a few years after they came out, and this is the song they introduced me to was Joker and the Thief from Wolf Mother.
Really?
I've
Okay.
always found, yeah, it's which they get compared to Led Zeppelin because of the singer's voice and all, but
You
it's
would
like I can,
think, yeah.
it's like I can kind of see it, but I'm like it's still. I don't think he's trying to sound like Robert Plant. Some people would say. That's what some people would say, unfortunately. But I've always thought that the music was, well, at the early stuff was creative compared to the newer stuff, which is just self-indulgent. I'll just be honest with that.
It's not digging it.
I mean, it's only like one song from like one of the recent albums I like, and that's about it. Um, but no, people know them because not only from that one, but also Woman. That's the other one.
Woman.
One, you got to be a woman. And it's just because those commercials, they overplayed that a ton. To the
Why
point
not?
that it was like, all right, I'm done with that. But it's also interesting when you read about how it's like the guitarist and singer was the only one that was consistent because everybody else was either fired or just ever changing every time.
That just
Like,
couldn't make up their mind, huh?
I guess not. He was just too much of a perfectionist. At least that's my guess at that point. But
Wow.
yeah, that's all I can
Very
say
cool.
about that.
Not bad, not bad. Okay, well, I got uh, Get by Paul Oakenfold with vocals by Ice Cube. This was a perfect warm-up song to where, I mean, my dad started having it play at my brother's baseball little league.
Not sure if I heard that one or not. Trying to think.
You can go ahead and play a sample of it. It's total boxing song. But Oakenfold's, usual electronic vibe really does paint a very intense photo, and it's kind of a shame that every time he's tried to do like a movie music score, it kind of just feels not as dreamlike as he could probably intend it to be. Here's like he was on fire around this time, so. In terms of Ice Cube's discography, it's definitely underrated for him because he gets to have a few fun lyrics just showing how whoever he's going to fight, they're going to really regret their comeuppance, This right here, this is payback. I don't play that.
Let's see if we'll play it for once. Jesus, come on, thing.
Die hard on a YouTube.
Apparently.
John's computer has been taken hostage by terrorists.
Although. Oh, God. Damn ad.
It's getting there.
Hold on.
It's getting
I know.
It's getting there. It's getting there.
But I'm not paying premium, so screw that. Just saying. Sorry, but I don't feel like doing that.
All good.
No.
Alrighty. Well. What?
I have heard that one, yeah. I just didn't know the name of it, actually. Now I know.
There you go. Yeah, it's very underrated.
Well, I figure I go with, since I'm kind of predictable with some of these. I knew I had forgotten that mention one in the 90s, which was one that I did grow up on from Santana and Bob Thomas, which was Smooth at that time.
Yep.
And so I figured I go with, some people will laugh, but I go with Santana and Michelle Branch with The Game of Love. That's always been one that's, I found to be an interesting combination with those two.
I think I definitely heard that one.
Oh, I think you've heard that one.
Especially when I was going through Branch's discography.
And I actually think the styles worked pretty well with each other
Yeah.
at that time. Although Santana can do that even with Chad Kroger of all people, it can work.
Mm-hmm.
This is the one that actually introduced me to Michelle Branch at that time. And since then I went back to her discography and actually don't hate some of her songs, to be fair.
No.
And that's why it's interesting to see her on Buffy show up as herself at one point.
Hot shit, back when any artist could appear on something.
Oh, that's true. And like I said, I thought it blended, their genres together very well. And of course, I've always loved Santana's playing. He's just that great of a guitarist, as I've said many times.
Totally.
And it just is very memorable. Like, I don't know what else I could say about that.
Totally. Well, I got one last one left in me. I don't have any honorable mentions to go around. I got You Get What You Get by the New Radicals.
Ah, interesting one.
Long.
Oh, yeah.
Time, I thought it was U2 or somebody else. It was like,
That's what my dad thought too, actually, for the longest time.
Dad knew all about him, and then I looked it up, and it turned out he was right. It's like they were hot for a minute, and then just totally fucked up their career. Just like it didn't go anywhere. And it's like, oh, you bastards, you had it all. You should have kept making music.
I think they made people didn't they play somewhere? I think either this year or last year or something. Because I know they trended on Twitter at one point for some reason. I remember seeing something about that, but I forgot why at this point. But I know people were talking about them. I'm like, why are they talking about them for some reason? I don't know. But then they play live like a New Year's Eve. I think that's what it was. Those New Year's Eve things that they do at the end of the year. You know, like the
Yeah.
yeah. I think that's what.
It all. I would have been 11 when that was on, so yeah.
So
Definitely didn't stay up for that, but yeah.
But no, that's always like a fun song, especially all the references you hear. All the references you hear about certain celebrities. They make fun of on that.
Yeah, I'm sure there were plenty of critics of him at the time. I guess
Oh yeah.
at the same time, I guess better to know that you're not cut out for this ahead of time than continuing on. But
That's true.
I mean, damn, what could have been? Especially for a song this is played endlessly on loop every day.
That's true. Even in commercials, you see, sometimes.
Yeah.
And
What kick your asses?
I love that.
They don't even censor it, and in my mother.
No, they don't.
Each time, I'm like, it's not explicit to be fair.
Well, I figure I go, if my list will be a tie between these two. Since one I'll just mention, well, really quickly, since we all know this one, Bring Me to Life by Evanescence. Which, of course, was on the Daredevil soundtrack, which is how I got introduced to that song.
Amy Lee.
And
I'm even more partial to the song she did with Seether that played on.
oh yeah, I like that one
credits.
too.
And that
Broken.
gets a lot of play, and no one. Whenever I quiz everyone, they're like, "What movie did that play in?" You know? No.
I actually didn't know it played in that movie, honestly, until I rewatched it. I was like, oh wow, because it's like very faint. You hear it very briefly.
Well, it's at the credits, so yeah.
Well, that's true, but you do hear it in one scene, but very
really?
briefly. Yeah.
Now I gotta rewatch it. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about.
I believe they did, at least, unless my memory just sucks at that, but I'm pretty sure they did. If not, unless it's just the end credits, and I just.
I didn't buy these Blu-rays for nothing.
But the other song I'll mention, and I know, because one of my brothers will listen to this, because he's the reason why I heard this song, and I do enjoy it, even though the video is awful for it. Which is, I Believe in a Thing Called Love by the Darkness. I have to mention that one. Which,
Darkness by what?
well, no, it's I Believe in a Thing Called Love by the Darkness. That's what they're called.
Okay.
Yeah, The Darkness. And
The Darkness.
I'm sure you've heard it.
2010s? I know the
No,
Pearl
it's
Jam song we
2003.
kind of cheated.
Well, it was from 2009. That was a Pearl Jam song, but
Oh, really?
that's
Damn.
fine. Yeah.
Someone saying 2018 must have been the video uploaded. Okay.
It must have been. But this one was 2003, the same year as the Evanescence song. And I remember the video because of the. Oh God, how do I explain this? The video, which is the singer dressed like he's from either the 70s or 80s, and God, I don't know how to explain this video. I just remember seeing it as a kid, like, what the hell is this? Number one. Not even emo, it was like, what the? But the thing that helped it was the music, which is very 80s inspired, you could tell.
Music videos would always just kind of lose me when they would even just do something as outrageous as just like it looks like something out of a fantasy movie like Moulin Rouge or Lord of the Rings, and it'd be like, so the camera's just fading away while they're playing in a forest with all these neon lights or some shit. I was like, that looks
This
so
was like
static
sci-fi.
to me.
This was like sci-fi influence. You can
Oh,
tell. That's what
jeez.
they were doing. But I don't know, like the singer's voice. I'm not gonna say is great and all, but I think it fits with the song. And what really amps it up for me is at the finale where you get the solo, which I think is a pretty great solo, if you ask me. And I know my brother always likes to quote it every time. Well, he used to, especially years ago.
Just that inside joke that won't die.
It was, especially because there's one part where it's like, you know, I believe in a thing called love. And he would just, because then he'd go, and then I'll touch your boob.
Wow.
They literally say that in the song, which you didn't know, because at the time I didn't know that's what he said until later on. And
That's so fast.
I know. I thought he said something else, which is stupid of me, but but no, it's one song, it's their only hit, pretty much, and
Wow.
it was, I mean, it's a fun song if you like to just, you know, some outrageous lyrics, that's what I like to call it, and especially, and just hear that singer go, let's say, too many octaves, you'd say, especially during the chorus, and it's very interesting, but very fun at the same time. That's what I
Okay.
always call it.
Well, that's
And
sometimes all you need.
yeah, that's what. But I never looked back at that video because no, thank you. I still remember. I can still picture it in my head now. So that tells you something. But no, that's my list there. At least, unless there was something else, I don't know. I'm forgetting. But yeah, that's all I can say.
I'm sure I heard it. I just
I'm sure you have. Trust me. They,
always revisiting songs.
it's interesting. That's all I'll say. That's my word for that. I was like, I just remember sitting there as a kid, like, what is this video? That's my first thought. And it's clearly, like I said, it was almost like it was like a parody band, but they're not actually. You think they
Really?
are, but they're not. They're serious. And yet that's the only hit. But
Maybe that's why they got signed on and someone wasn't in on the joke.
I know that's the funny part, and that's true. But
Oh, it is?
no, I don't know if that's true or not. But I'm saying that if it's true, that'll be hilarious. I know I haven't really looked up anything about them. I just know that one song. That's it. That's hard to say. But it's certainly hilarious. Especially, like I said. But I mentioned that enough. Anyway. But no, it's certainly an interesting decade. Filled with some that you like and some that you don't.
Mm-hmm.
We already mentioned the ones we don't on another podcast, but that's a different
There you go.
one.
Pick and choose.
That's all you can do. That's all you can do.
We'll return after these messages.
Hey, feeling down? Feeling low? Not enough podcasts about movies in your life? Why not try
They must be destroyed on sight.
the new Podcast Cure-All? Sure to get you right with the world and on a path to better living. We have exploitation, we have Italian horror, we have zombies, we have slashers, we have crime films, we have spaghetti westerns, we even have sci-fi and sex comedies. So take a dose of
They must be destroyed on sight.
As Needed and let the hosts, Lee Russell, Daniel Harper, Paul Romali, and the odd guest host cure what ails you.
Warning, may cause atrophy, African consumption, black fever, bone shave, chin cough, colic, cramp colic, dropsy of the brain, elephantitis, grocer's itch, jaundice, mania, miasma, mortification, palsy, Pott's disease, rheumatism, scurvy, St. Anthony's fire, summer complaint, and worm fit in some people. Consult a physician before listening.
Hey, I heard you like movies.
I heard you like to hustle.
I heard you like podcasts.
Well, guess what?
There's a podcast for you out there called The Home Video Hustle.
Damn right.
Every Friday, we talk about whatever movie PJ picks out the bag. What does that mean? Every Wednesday on our YouTube page, I put a bunch of movies in a bag, and PJ picks one out at random. And then we just watch it. We talk about it for maybe like an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever we feel like doing, wherever the conversation leads us.
But do we actually talk about the movie?
Most of the time. Tangents galore.
Yes.
So believe me, we may be a movie podcast, but it's not always about movies. We might talk about video games, music. Yeah, that's the big one, music. Sometimes we might get a little bit of politicalness in there.
Yes.
Sometimes we may just, we know what we like to do. We like to tell stories, PJ.
Yes.
I am the master storyteller of the podcast realm. Undefeated. So if you like to hear about movies, video games, whatever foolishness comes to our mind, the most random stuff you could think of, check out the Home Video Hustle. You can find us on the Stitchers, the Google Play, Apple Podcasts,
what else?
Podbean,
what else?
Podcast Addict,
goddamn,
all that. Ain't no reason you can't get your hustle on. We everywhere, worldwide, baby.
Hustle, motherfucking hustle.
Hey, we can't cuss in the promo, PJ. We gotta be family friendly. There may be podcasts out there that don't want his hair say all that good fun stuff.
Well, you.
Don't run the listeners away, PJ.
I'm sorry.
But this is going kind of long.
Yes.
So we'll end this and say, hey, check out the Home Video Hustle every Friday on all the various podcast outlets. Peace.
Peace.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster. And while Witch didn't make it to the top of the world, he did make the Gangs of Hollywood podcast. So join the gang and enjoy a movie review podcast about movie gangs, gangsters, mobsters, and the mayhem they cause. You can find GOH Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at GOH Pod at www.gohpod.com, as well as your favorite podcast listening app. And remember, say hello to your little friend for me.
If you take two old punk rockers who are past their prime, put them in front of a movie screen and give them a podcast, what do you get? Cinema Punks. Cinepunks. It's the mixtape of movies.
Did you ever see a film at such a young age it left you traumatized with cinematic wounds? Necrophilia. It's a dead issue, man. Don't push it. Cinema Psyops is a weekly podcast documenting an ongoing experiment on the mind of an unwilling test subject.
No one should have to watch this movie.
Oh, no one should have to watch this?
No one should have to watch this movie.
Surprisingly, it's not a topic that a lot of people really want to tackle.
I'm shocked, prudes.
I know, really.
Right?
It's the next sexual frontier that no one wants to explore.
I am, in the most sincerest of senses, disappointed in you.
It takes a powerful goddess like Connie, jam her arm down the monster's throat and kill it. Oh, I'm still tripping out over that. Even as a kid, I was like, I gotta find a girl like that. Every week, I get a new look of disappointment that I never thought I could get out of her.
Unimaginable. At 12 years old, you should not be watching this movie.
Obviously.
At 13, you should not be. 14, you shouldn't be. I'm not entirely sure even 17-year-olds should be watching this.
Just because you're offended by something doesn't mean that you have the right to demand that it doesn't exist. Watching this film again, I had all of this like little nerd glee with everything that kept
little
popping
history all popping up
absolutely.
at you.
So I totally loved this film.
Hey, I know why you couldn't see that. because your brain's warped watching this shit at 12 years old.
Yeah, this is a rough movie. I told you ahead of time when we were getting ready to do it that it was
How
going to be
did
a
you
rough
watch
one.
this shit at 12?
Because physical wounds heal, cinematic ones don't. Listen to Cinema Psyops.
Hey everybody, I'm Corey.
And I'm Zach, and we're the hosts of Podcasting After Dark, a cast dedicated to late-night horror and sci-fi of the 80s and 90s, often found on HBO and Cinemax.
You know, the movies your parents didn't want you watching as a kid. You can find us every other week on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and Stitcher.
This is what you want.
This is what you get.
It's time, let's check our cue, baby. Pair it with a couple brews, baby. We love good movies. We love the bad ones too. So we watch them all and pass their lessons on to you. Oh yeah. Everything I learned from movies helps to make life a little bit groovy. With a one-last plot holes of gratuitous movies. It's time to get busy with your friend Steve and Izzy. At eilfm.podbean.com.
Welcome to Who Was She podcast. I am your host, Tara Jabari. After a decade working in documentaries, marketing, and all things digital media, I found that podcasting is a strong medium to share stories. After years of producing for others, I decided to start my own biographical podcast. Who Was She will focus on the life of a woman throughout Baha'i history. The first season is about Lydia Zemenov. Lydia's story explores the subjects of the power of language and faith. Her father invented the universal language Esperanto, and she came from a Jewish family and became a Baha'i. She grew up during World War I and was killed during World War II in a concentration camp, despite heroic efforts to save her life. How can one person's life intersect with so many others, connect across borders, and inspire a biography which inspired this podcast? Over the next few weeks, I will share her story with you and the lives that were most affected by her and those who affected her life as well. They include her father, Ludwig Zemenov, her spiritual mother, American journalist Martha Root, and the Baha'i German soldier Fritz Mako, who worked for the resistance undercover while having to serve the Nazi Party. I want to thank the author Wendy Heller and George Ronald Publishing for their blessing to let me use Heller's biography, Lydia, The Life of Lydia Zemenov, Daughter of Esperanto, as a main and instrumental resource for this podcast. So please subscribe and learn about this amazing woman who traveled through 3 continents in an effort to bring unity through the power of language. You can also find more information on our Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest at Who Was She Podcast. Music was composed and performed by Sam Red. I am your host, Tara Jabari. Join us next time as we begin our journey about Lydia Zemenov.
Hi everybody, it's Mac Jackson. I wanted to invite you to a new site called the Forever Adventure Network. This website has everything. Pictures, videos, blogs. There's original music by Harmony Constant, 2 podcasts. One is the MacGyver podcast, where we celebrate Richard Dean Anderson, his iconic roles, and how it's influenced our lives. There's episode discussions, interviews, and life conversations. The second podcast is the Never Gets Old podcast, where we celebrate all the best things that we love in life, from TV, movies, music, and comics. The site is also the home for the MacGyver SG-1 audio series. an ongoing adventure series that continues the adventures of MacGyver and SG-1. There are also multiple stores to choose from for all of your pop culture and adventure needs. Come on by and check us out today. And thanks for joining the adventure.
Are you sick of the same old stale podcasts? Well, then join Vanessa and Darren as they dissect movies of all kinds. The two lifelong cinema lovers bring their favorites, curiosities, and first-time watches to the operating table and inject them with a healthy dose of snark. Then there's the waiting room, where they examine books and short stories. So just look for them on Apple Podcasts and where fine podcasts are available. They're part of the Legion Podcast Network. Follow them on Twitter at VDClinicPod. Join them on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/VDClinicPod. Or email them at vdclinicpod@gmail.com. They're ready to cure what ails you. And still, they just might be a little contagious.
Hi there. It's Heather from the Watching Netflix Without You podcast. Did you know that there are over 1,200 Netflix original feature films and documentaries? And that number is only growing. So I've made it my mission to watch as many as I possibly can. Then, with a delightful guest or guests, disclaimer, more often than not my brother Ryan, we spend an episode rating, reviewing, and discussing a film at length. The first half of every episode is spoiler-free for those who haven't seen it yet, and in the second half, after a very clear spoiler warning, we dive into it. And that's really about it. You can listen to Watching Netflix Without You on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and more.
We now continue with our program.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a jacked up